On the eve of Game 6, the Avs are on the brink of elimination, but we have a fun show planned for you today for Pucks and Prosecco to help take your mind off it, powered by our good friends at Accurate America. A fun one today.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to.
Hi, everybody. Welcome in.
Why does it keep cutting off
our
Jesse's
very
last part?
natural, very seamless episode of Pucks and
Right.
Prosecco. Meghan Angley and Chloe Theil back for another episode today. We've got some exciting things to dive into later in the episode to maybe help, I don't know if set the tone is the right word for it, but to help put into context how these playoffs have gone for other teams around the leagues with respect to officiating.
Yeah.
But before we do, we are going to be joined by Romi Bean, the first female lead sports anchor in Denver, Colorado history. She has been an absolute monster covering multiple teams and doing an awesome job. She had a Mackenzie Blackwood interview earlier this year that's on YouTube. You should go watch. And she's been heading up the Coach Prime Playbook show with an exclusive sit down with him over the last year. So she's been doing some exciting stuff. And I was able to sit down with her ahead of Game 4. Game
Yes.
4. And catch up
Right.
on all of the latest in Romi Bean's life.
She's great. If you think that we're everywhere, you should watch what
Huh.
Romi does because
Yes.
she does everything that we do and more. It's incredible.
Yeah, Romi Bean is everywhere at once, and she was a guest on This Is Fun about 2 years ago, so that's
Mhm.
another good primer for people who maybe haven't gotten a chance to learn a little bit about Romi Bean's path into being the first female lead sports anchor. Jesse has a great interview with her on our channel currently, and this is just a deeper look at what the last year of life has been like with Miss Romi Bean. So everybody,
Do it, Jesse.
Meghan Angley here for a special At the Rink edition of Pucks and Prosecco. I'm joined today by a very special guest, the first female sports lead anchor in Denver, Colorado's history, Romi Bean. If you haven't watched This Is Fun with Jesse Montano, it's an episode from about 2 years ago, and it's a wonderful primer into a little bit of the life around Romi Bean. But it's exciting to get the chance to catch up with you again today. Romi, how are you doing?
I'm doing so good. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so proud of all the work you do, and I'm happy to be kind of in your house here. You know, Pucks and Prosecco at the rink. I love that.
At the rink. Romi, this is your house too. We're going to talk a little bit about girls hockey night in Ballerina earlier this year, but I want to take things back to the summer for the second. The inaugural Girls in the Game event that you launched. Tell me a little bit about how this event came to be.
Yeah, you know, I was for so long wanted to create something where girls could come and explore all of the careers in sports, because I think sometimes depending on what you're interested in, like if you're an athlete, you just think about playing sports, but that ends for everybody at some age, and most people don't go pro. A lot of people don't even, play college. And then, maybe if it's us, like I used to always see front facing, but I'd see a lot of men in the front facing media sector. But then there's also so much that happens behind the scenes that make any single game day happen, that these are billion-dollar corporations, and there's so many marketing and sales and community relations. And then so I wanted to put something together where girls and young women could come and see all of the possibilities and open their eyes to possibly careers that they hadn't thought of, right, that they didn't even know existed. And it was incredible, all of the organizations, and we had all of the sports teams there, and they were incredible. Avs and Nuggets came with so much swag and gear, and people were just at their booth all day long. But we had nonprofits there. It was so much more than that, right? We had people in the digital space, people in radio. The Rockies had a fantastic setup. I didn't even know how many women, were in big positions in the Rockies organization. So it was a great learning experience for me as well. And the best part was there was so many people that came in and gave us really good feedback. How can you make this better? And So this coming year, we want to open it a little bit more. We had kind of tailored it to almost like high school and under, and we're kind of hoping to open it this year. So it's a little bit more career fair oriented almost, open up to, because we had college students come down and say, I wasn't sure if I could come to this. I was like, I'm so glad you came. So we're going to get hopefully more college students involved in it as well. And just, as many organizations as we can, the universities. It's just so cool how many opportunities are available in sports. And I just wanted people to have the opportunity to see all that and get inspired.
I talked to a lot of young women that day, but I did talk to some women who were post-college, some women in college. So I want you to know the reach, even in its first time doing it, was huge. Did it tug at your heartstrings a little bit to see the turnout, not only in the women, the professionals that turned out in support of it, but all the young women who came out to learn more?
Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable. I was so nervous. I was like, what if nobody comes? And I was also nervous about all of the people like you who took the time on their day to come out and be part of this and share your experience. I was like, what if nobody shows up and you guys are sitting there and you're like, we're never going to do this again? But I was so inspired watching all of these girls and young women. And like you said, some older women came too, which was awesome. And watching them go from booth to booth and talk to all of you and see them light up and see them be inspired it just made me want to make it bigger and do more. It was so cool to see. I think also talking to all of the professionals that were there and all of your feedback and how a lot of you left feeling inspired.
Oh, yeah.
Really, that meant everything to me because I didn't know what to expect, and it feels like we just grew our female sports community, and at the end of the day, that's all we want to do.
I reconnected with Angel Field from the University of Denver.
I love Angel.
She knew me when I was a student there through the work-study program, and she embraced me in a hug. So, Romi, you gave me such a wonderful full-circle moment.
That's amazing.
This was such a cool day. I just need you to know that.
That makes me so happy.
And so I want to hear a little, too, on the flip of it. The Avs host girls hockey night here in Ball Arena, and you get to do the public address announcements and sound the goal horn. Can you walk me through what this night was like from your perspective?
So surreal and really nerve-wracking, like such an out-of-body experience because I'm used to reporting and standing, but reporting and doing PA is so different. And I feel like if you're doing PA anywhere, it's one thing, but if you're doing PA filling in for Alan Roach, like the god of public address, it's like, what? But the advice that we always try to give to so many people, Alan was like, just be yourself, don't be me. So I was like, okay. But in my head, it was burned into my head the way he said, Nathan, Ma, Cannon, like everything he said. So I'm like, how do I say it any differently though? Because we're so used to the way he does it. And he was great. Alan stayed with me for like the first 2 periods, which was so nice, but also made me like a little more nervous.
Okay.
Because I was like, oh no, I really can't mess up. But he was just so supportive, which was just awesome to have him there. And I was kind of getting, some messages as it was going on of people that were here and that were like, keep it up, you're doing so great. And that made me feel really good because I was nervous. Like, I was just like, please don't let my voice crack. For the love, you get so excited with the Avs goal, and I'm like, oh my gosh, don't let me get squeaky. So I was kind of born with a deeper voice, so I think it worked out a little well. No, but it was so much fun, and to like do something like that like honestly was like a big challenge because it was, I'm so not used to it. I had the best time, and then at the very end, Steve, shout out Steve, was like, do you want to hit the goal horn? And I was like, wait, this is an option? And Roach said that he's like, I never touched that. I don't want to touch it. I was like, you've been offered this?
Why?
Yeah, I don't know, But I was like, and the best part is it's a big red button. Like some people were saying, I'm so happy it's not like on a computer.
Yes.
It looks like a big red eject button.
That is
like
satisfying.
This danger button. And I was like,
I must press it.
Best experience of my life. I'm still looking for that dopamine boost. I don't know if it'll ever match it. That was like unbridled joy.
As soon as you said it, that might be why Roach didn't want to press it. It's like there's no going back from that moment and the sheer power and rush of adrenaline that I would feel if I did it.
It's very true.
It's hard to come back from that. You just need to get the chance to press it again.
Do it. Oh, it was the best.
That's all I'm hearing is you just should be doing it every night.
Well, now I'm like, ooh, now I know where it is. Like, can I sneak down there? Like, they're going to put a rope up. I actually told Steve, I was like, you might want to put a rope up moving forward because I'm going to try and get back down there.
Yeah, it's calling to you. All right, I want to hear a little bit about Coach Prime's playbook and getting this project off the ground and getting to put your unique stamp on this series.
It has been an unbelievable gift in so many different ways. It's been one of my biggest challenges, I think, in my career and one of the biggest blessings. So I was thinking about the first show I did. I was so nervous, and I go back and watch it, and I can hear it in my voice because Coach Prime nobody fills a room like this man. Nobody I've ever seen in my entire life. It's incredible. I mean, it's sensational. So for me, in that first few episodes, when I didn't really know him and we were getting to know each other, I was like, how do I match him where he's at?
Yeah.
But be authentically myself, not shrink in his presence when he's just such this big, awesome, bold personality.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was a learning curve, and that was learning and trusting in my training, and trusting that I was there, and trusting that there was a reason that I was there and I earned a right to be there.
Yes.
I think helped me a lot, and it's just been incredible. I think building this incredible working relationship with him. He's such a wonderful human being, and I know people have opinions on either side, but I think a lot of people just choose to jump to judgment. But when you get a chance to get to know him, it's been so fulfilling to say I get this opportunity to sit down with this incredible man, once a week. And my favorite part of the show has been we have a player segment, and to see how he interacts with his players, it tells you everything you need to know, and it's so cool. And to see the way his players just adore him, and so that kind of actually came along as one of our last ideas when we were putting the show together, and kind of figuring out, would this work, and with their class and with their schedules. And it's been such a great, one of my favorite segments. I think we had Jimmy Horn Jr. on my first season, and then that was him and Prime, which everybody knows their relationship, but seeing that like close up was just, it was a gift, right? So it's so fun, and honestly, it's really fun to do a show that keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
Like, you never know what he's gonna say, and I come in and I got my questions in mind, but he'll answer, he'll take it whatever way he wants to take it. And it like, I go back to a great challenge professionally to be ready for that.
Yes.
And to be on your toes and to follow up, even if, okay, we cut video to this, and this, but sometimes we just have to say, scrap that, and, we can't put video over this because I got to follow up on something you said. So it's been a blast. And as someone who went to see you too, it's so incredible to see how he has just revived that whole program. So that side of it's been really fun too.
That's awesome. Something you talked about on This Is Fun was finding your voice. Mm-hmm. And you were talking about your TV voice, and you kind of had to challenge this notion of what you thought the TV voice was supposed to be. Mm-hmm. With this Coach Prime Playbook series, did you find at the beginning there was a way you thought this should be done, and in the end you discovered this is the way Romi Bean does it? Yeah, absolutely. I think the fun thing is it's almost not a typical coach's show, which keeps all of us on our toes. We often say that. But it was at the beginning, I better ask these questions, right? Yeah. And I have to make sure it's stuck to this, and we hit all the nuts and bolts. But he also has his weekly press conference where a lot of those nuts and bolts get hit. So it started to become, how can I make this show valuable for the viewers, because all of the people that are watching have probably also watched his press conference. Right. So, and even though we shoot that show the same day as the press conference, it airs a day later. So the challenge then is sometimes there are really pressing topics we have to talk about. How can I ask it differently? How can we take a different angle on it? Yeah. Because I know if I offer it up to him differently, he's going to give me something different, Yeah. And the great part about working with someone like Coach Prime is you're always going to get a great answer. You're always going to get something that you can really chew on, right? And so for me, it's the responsibility of asking good questions and asking questions that have him intrigued, that he wants to be there. And that's a big challenge, and it's so much fun. But it is, like you said, it was a challenge in that sense of finding my voice in that space, right? Yeah. And again, trying to be authentic. I think that has been so much in my career and I think in a lot of people's careers in sports is you kind of get told early on, do this, don't do this, be that, sound like this, talk like this. And what I've realized, I was speaking to a journalism class just the other day, what resonates with people is you. Yeah. We can all, there's so many avenues and mediums to take in sports. Right. And what people are tuning into is to see how you tell it. How does Megan tell me about the Avs? Because that's why I like listening to Gorilla, right? Yeah. And Jesse too. Shout out Jesse. But so how can I make this unique for the viewers and something that they leave and it gives them something to think about, something to feel good about as well. Yeah. So I like it because it's a constant challenge every single week. And what I also like is I think Coach Prime keeps me on my toes. Like he makes sure, right? I'm accountable, I'm ready to go, I'm prepared, and I love that. Another coach that you've sat down with and have done a couple of hits with is Coach Carl from the University of Denver,
Yes.
and I went to school there, so I have a lot of pride for that program. His name has come up in a lot of NHL conversations, and it's not just because he has 3 titles to his name, 1 as an assistant with Monty, 2 as the head coach. And I wanted to know why you think his name comes up in NHL conversations.
I am such a big fan of David Carl. He is an incredible coach. And to think about everything he did, I mean, honestly, if you go back to DC and just his journey, right?
Yeah.
And his journey and how his hockey career ended.
Yeah.
You could use the word tragically. I don't know if that's, the best word, but how his hockey career ended and he didn't have a chance to chase his hockey dreams. And what does he do? He turns it into this incredible hockey coaching career.
Yes.
I mean, it's sensational. So his whole story, I think, honestly, is very inspiring. But he's one of those coaches that just knows how to talk to his players.
Yeah.
He knows how to get the most out of them. And it was interesting, before they went to the Frozen Four, who is it? I think I asked Connor Caponi before they went to the Frozen Four. I asked Connor Caponi, like, what makes David Carl such a good coach?
Yeah.
And he talked about how he's so cool, he's so even keeled. We rarely see him blow up. He said, but he just knows the right words to say in the right moments. The intensity notches up just enough in the playoffs. And I asked DC afterwards, like, do you feel like the intensity jumps up? And he was kind of like, I guess maybe a little, and that speaks to, again, he just is who he is, but he just has it. Some coaches just have it. They know how to connect with their players. They know how to coach them the right way and get the most out of them. And the expectations are really high, and I love that.
Yeah.
I always have the pleasure of having him on my show. At least we try and get him like once a year.
Yeah.
And he's the best, and I always joke. I'm like, all right, so when are you leaving?
Yeah.
When are you leaving? And I think that he has established himself enough that he'll go when the opportunity's right. He's got this young family, and you get the opportunity to coach at DU. He says it all the time. He said, I think this is a top 3 college hockey place to coach in college hockey. It's recruiting, people want to come play for DU.
Yeah.
You recruit a certain caliber of players. And that's the other thing too. I always say DU is semi-pro, right? He deals with basically, kids that want to go pro, that are very professional in how they handle their business. It's run like a pro program in so many ways. He's just so ready for this next step, and I can't wait to see where it's. It's going to be sad when we lose him, but I can't wait to see, because he's so ready for that opportunity.
I love this so much. I'm going to shift the vibes to the vibes around the Avs as well.
Vibes.
Good
vibes.
I know. I was like, should we do a vibe check on the Nuggets too? You know what? This is a hockey podcast. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But I do want to talk about your interview with Mackenzie Blackwood.
Yeah.
It's on Romi's YouTube channel, so everybody should go check it out. He is a hilarious character in the locker room, but I wanted to hear your perspective on some of the insights that you gathered from that interview.
Well, it was funny when at first we were setting up, and I was like, oh my gosh, Mackenzie Blackwood, never had a goaltender on my show. I feel like goaltenders are like the secret society of tendies. I always say, even it doesn't matter the sport, right? Where it's like, wait, what? I'm gonna have a goaltender on? This is awesome.
Unicorns.
And they're totally unicorns, right? And they kind of beat to their own drum. And so I was like, okay. I got a little bit nervous because I feel like I've had some great Avs on throughout the years, but I was like, never had a goaltender on, and I feel like it's like a totally different breed of human being, you know what I mean? But he was, what I loved about Mackenzie was he's so cool, he's so confident, kind of in who he is, and it doesn't really matter, it's similar to what you see on the ice. It doesn't really matter what gets thrown his way.
Yes.
He's kind of ready for it, and in this really calm way. And the whole concept to me that this guy had never played in the postseason, and the Avs signed him and basically said, you're the guy we expect you to take us, to a Stanley Cup, is incredible. But sitting down with him, I'm like, okay, I get it. His demeanor, he's funny, he jokes around, but then when it's time to lock in, he locks in, right? And he was kind of telling me that I think I found it a little bit surprising that him and Wedgie are kind of goofballs, right?
Yes.
Together. And you just kind of never expect the goaltenders to be the goofy ones, right? If you will. And I was I asked him about his teeth, right? Because I'm like, you don't normally see a attendee who doesn't have his teeth. And he was saying one time he took a piece out of his mask he wasn't supposed to.
Yep.
So one time he takes a puck to the face. So he's like, well, I'm not allowed to do that anymore. But I just loved his personality and how confident he was, but also just didn't take things too seriously. It's get the job done. And some of the questions I was asking, he was just kind of I was like, I had to like kind of like press, and it was funny because we have a lot of hockey guys at our station, and they're like, he did exactly what a goaltender's supposed to do. He gobbled up the questions and didn't give you anything back.
Yeah.
And I was like, and that was again another great challenge for me, right? To kind of find different ways to ask him different things, and he was so fun. But my favorite part probably was he lit up the most when I asked him about Wedgwood. And I think you get such a take of who guys are when you ask him questions like that. And he literally said before the show, he's like, don't ask about me. Just ask me about like the other guys. And I was like, okay, we'll do a mix. And that was like what he loved, talking about everybody around him. That tells you so much about who he is, why he's such a team player, why guys love playing for him, right?
Yeah.
He would have talked about Wedgwood for an entire segment, I think, if he could have. But it was
That's
like,
adorable.
nope, this is the Mackenzie Blackwood show. We're talking about you.
We did a sit down with Scott Wedgwood and asked about Mackenzie Blackwood, and he lit up and described him as a golden retriever. So this is a very adorable bonded pair that should never be separated, apparently.
I love it. All right, the nicknames, everything.
Yeah, the lumberyard, the woodshed. I think you brought that up on the show. All the wood that's on this team. It's incredible.
There's a lot of wood. Well, and Wedgwood with like wedgie. So I was like, so what are you? And he was like, honestly, he's like, yeah, people call me Blackie. I don't know if I can say it. I was like, well, you said it, so you're fine.
Yeah.
It is his name.
Self-dubbed, Blackie.
So-
It's on his mask, or
So
at
it's
least
like-
it was on
But
a
it was really
former
funny how
mask.
he was like, am I? And I was like, yeah.
Cut the cameras.
Cut it down.
We're done.
He was great. He was also grew up an Avs fan. Did you know that?
He mentioned that Joe Sakic, which I was like, not Patrick Waugh? Okay.
Yeah, his dad was a Sakic fan. He had a Sakic poster on his wall growing up. And like, talk about just like, okay, written in the stars.
Yep, full
Things are supposed to
circle.
come together in Thunder Bay, Ontario, and he was a Joe Sakic Avs fan.
I love that so much, and I love that it was Joe, of all players,
Right?
now the president of the organization, and he's playing a huge role on this team.
Yeah.
It's game 3 as we record this, and we're on the brink of a possible Gabriel Landeskog comeback. What is the path forward for this team? What is your expectation for what this group can accomplish?
I mean, I keep saying the Avs are a wagon. And the biggest thing is when you look at what they did and totally transformed this team. Somebody asked me, like, oh, is this the norm? Our team's going to start doing this at the trade deadline? And, I think this is an unusual situation because it's so rare you offload a player like Mikko Rantanen, right? And that was so devastating at the time that it happened. But all you can do is tip your hat to the front office and what they have done with that and all the pieces that they have brought in. It's been sensational and such pieces of need, and everybody has stepped up. And you get these guys, a guy like Charlie Coyle, for example, who not only is stepping up on the ice, but he's got so much. He's never missed playoffs in his career, right? So, those kind of things are invaluable, right?
Definitely.
When you get to these big moments, guys who know how to play in the big moments, things like that can't be undervalued, right? And I think every single guy that they've brought in has been an incredible addition. And it says something. I remember before the deadline, I don't remember what game it was, but the Avs had lost, and Cale Makar said, we need to show the front office this is a team worth investing in.
Yes.
And I thought that was such a poignant statement, and it really does go both ways. And then you see what the front office does, and so that tells you what that says to the guys in the dressing room. All right, this front office does believe in us.
Yep.
Let's go do this. And so you've got all of that, plus this is the first time in how long that we're so confident in the goaltending.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. Because and even in the cup year, and no offense to Darcy, but you felt like he was the liability. You felt like there were games where the Avs were going to have to score 4 or 5 to win, and they were just an offensive juggernaut, and they did.
Yeah.
But and so then you have a guy with Mackenzie now. It's kind of this different. Wow, this feels like the first time in a long time where you're so unbelievably confident in this goaltending tandem.
Yeah.
That I think that's a different element. And then you bring in Gabe, and I mean, Megan, I just keep thinking about just the fact that he's here.
Yes.
The fact that a few months ago everybody thought it was over. Obviously we didn't know what was happening on the inside, but it felt like Chris McFarland not that long ago said, I think you guys all know where this is going.
Yeah.
Remember that?
And it was cryptic, and it felt slanted negative.
And everybody thought, oh, okay, we're gearing up for a retirement or something. And then, I don't know if he was fooling us or what, or if he didn't know, but either way, then just a few weeks after that, everything started just snowballing in this positive way. And it is unbelievable to think that somebody could make a return to pro sports.
Yes.
I don't care if you're an Avs fan, I don't care if don't even like sports, somebody can make a return through all this adversity is so sensational. And then of course, the person that Gabe Landeskog is makes it that more special, because we all know what he means to this team, to this community. He's the best guy to deal with in the media. I mean, he is one of one. I think this place is going to lose their minds if he's comes back. It's so emotional and special.
Yeah. I think the roof's going to get blown off Ball Arena when he steps back onto the ice. And you're right. I never thought we'd be in this room if you'd asked me even 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Based on how things were trending, because we hadn't seen him even take a full practice yet.
Right.
So this is an incredible comeback story. I wanted to check in with you, too, on how you juggle balancing more than one team at a time. And specifically, how you manage the emotional load of the highs and the lows, especially like a Nuggets and an Avs playoff run at the same time. And do you have any tips for me, the viewers?
Yeah, it is like I always say it's like a blessing and a curse. Yeah. I love that I get to cover so many different sports, especially, of these are my hometown teams, which I also love, and I love being part of all of the action. And it's such a gift to be able to do that and have the opportunity to cover all of these things. So that's the blessing part. The curse part is that you're never fully entrenched in one thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's coming into an environment knowing that I'm going to probably ask a question. I asked Jared Bednar a question today about Mackenzie Blackwood, and I guarantee somebody, a beat writer who's been here every single day, asked that question a week ago, and so knowing that that's going to happen, trying to, not let that happen too much and trying to be there as much as you can, but knowing you can only be in so many places at once.
Yeah.
That's the biggest challenge, but it's really, even though I'm not here for every game or here for every Nuggets game or this or that, it's like I'm always keeping tabs on it, if you will, and it's always making sure I'm up to speed on every single sport, which basically I have no life, but I also love that because sports is my life and I love it. And so it is a balancing act, but the biggest thing is staying up on everything, even if you can't be there in person all the time, right?
Yeah.
And ingesting all the games and all the post games and trying to stay on top of it so that when you are there, you're asking relevant questions and that you don't feel like you're like the person asking like the, oh my gosh, we already talked about that, type of a thing. But, and playoffs is the best time of year. It's such a gift to cover both and to be in a place where all the teams are all good,
Yeah.
That makes it really fun too, because there's a lot of times where you only have one team to cover, in the postseason, or no teams to cover in the postseason.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. You're kind of anchored to the results of one team, and we're just lucky to be in Colorado with so many sports to cover. I was also curious too about fashion for a second, because I think there's pros and cons to this, but there isn't really a rigid dress code for women and how you show up in your respective fields. And for men, it's dress shirt, slacks, maybe a suit coat. How have you embraced getting to choose what you wear and use it as an extension of your personal style?
Yeah, I think that's been so much fun and such like a place of growth for me, because I think when I first started, I just if you go to Amazon, you can get just TV anchor dresses, and it's like, oh, that's what everybody in studio is wearing at my station, so I'll get those too. And then started kind of exploring my own style a little bit, and there were times where I'd have discussions with my boss, and he'd be like, I don't want you to wear that, or do wear that, or you know what I mean. And those were kind of hard conversations, because it's a weird conversation for him to have, and it's kind of a weird conversation for me to have. But what I realized was when you look at something, it's like, oh, this is appropriate or this is not appropriate, right? I think that's always the baseline for me. And then just having fun with it. I have found that dressing up for work and embracing the fashion aspect of sports reporting, if you will, is so empowering.
Yeah.
And I love pantsuits. I'm a big pantsuit lady. Oh my gosh. But it is, I always call them my power suits,
I was going to say power suit.
Yeah. And I feel, let's take a line from Coach Prime, look good, feel good. I say look good, feel good, report good.
Report good.
So it's just like he says, but it is there when I feel like that's something as women that's unique that we get to do, which is actually really fun, is that we can kind of show who we are a little bit more through, our uniform, you know, and we don't just have to wear like a suit and tie.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I've really just embraced it. And it's been a fun journey because I feel like there's been a lot of misses.
Yeah.
For sure.
Same.
You know, but hey, live and learn. But it is fun. It feels like to get to show a little bit of who you are, you know, set yourself apart in kind of a different way, you know? It's fun.
I meant to ask the question before because I was thinking about that blurred line of work-life balance. And do you get to leisurely watch TV shows and like binge watch Real Housewives and things like that, or are you just so locked into sports that's kind of how you spend your free time?
You know, it's funny, every new year, like every January 1st, my New Year's resolution is to have better work-life balance.
Yes.
And I fail every year.
Every year.
But the one thing that I have tried to really do is when I do have time off to like actually take time off. It's so important.
Yeah.
I think for so many years I just stayed locked in and was still checking my work email and doing, you know, work things, and it's not healthy because you really do start to burn out. I think it's really easy to burn out in sports, and I think a lot of people will say like, "Oh my gosh, your job's so fun." And it is, it's a wonderful job.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you can't overload yourself on it. And it's such a real thing, and it's, you know, you have to be able to, even if it's pockets, just like step away. Or something I've been doing is like early in the morning, I used to like first thing get up, check my phone, right? Now, even if it's like 15, 20 minutes, I try and spend like the first 30 minutes like not looking at my phone. Because I know as soon as I do, I'm getting all these work emails about things we need. And to like, so I found that as opposed to taking like long pockets of time, like even if I can take little bits of time, that's really helped me feel less burnt out and feel like I have taken like some of me back, you know, because I feel like, I guess like real talk, I feel like I've given every inch of my, you know, body and soul to this job.
Yes.
And I love my job and I love what I do, but you do often think of that reality when people say like, oh, if you got fired tomorrow, who would you be? You know, who's Romi? And I'm like, Romi's somebody who needs more hobbies.
Yes.
Romi's somebody who needs to really work on embracing a life outside of this, because this is all I do. And and it's like one of those things where, what a gift that I want to do something so much that I want to spend all my time on it. But also, you know, as we get older, realizing like that's not healthy. You have to find balance.
Romi, that was basically my next and also last question, because you've been so generous with your time.
I'm here all day.
But I have this same exact crisis because hockey is my life, and that's why I wanted to make a career out of it. That came first, you know, loving hockey. It felt like I entered a marriage agreement when I found this sport. The minute I laid eyes on it, I knew I was done for. And I think about, well, who's Meghan away from hockey? And I get teased for not having watched movies all the time. People will bring up a quote and I have no idea where it's from because I don't really watch movies and shows. I just watch hockey. And I know that's probably not the healthiest thing. So I wondered what you do to pour into, like, checking back in with yourself, the Romi away from the sports, even though that is a huge aspect of your life.
It is. It's such like a learning and growing process, right? Because at the same time, like I might have a day off, but if there's a game on TV, like that's what I'm going to watch. So the truth is, like, that's kind of what I want to do anyway.
For fun.
And we are so lucky that we find so much fulfillment in what we do, because there are a lot of people that clock in their 9 to 5 and they have these bustling, amazing full lives outside of it because the work doesn't necessarily do it for them. So, you know, it's like and I think for so long I was just like, well, it doesn't matter. Like this is all I care about doing. And so again, I teeter back and forth between wanting to, you know, I don't mind giving so much of myself, but I do think that it's important. I think that there's a better version of me here and covering these sports when I am able to take a little bit of Romi back outside of it and separate a little bit, which isn't easy, right? But sometimes I'll even just watch like a garbage TV show, you know, just when I get home, like just something to detach. And it goes back to just like the pockets. You know how this goes. Like vacations don't exist, right? In sports, there's no such thing as vacations, you know? I mean, in football season, Thanksgiving, Christmas, they're playing games. Like the holidays aren't a thing. So, you know, how can you still make sure you have connections outside of this, whether that's family, friends, and, you know, I like realizing that I don't have to see my friends all the time to still have really
Yeah.
great connections with them, right? And
Yes.
as you get older, it becomes everybody has busy lives. And a lot of my friends now are like married with kids. And so
Yeah.
I'm going through that whole thing as like a female of like, what am I doing with my life? Like,
Yeah.
married to the
Wait,
game.
should I be worried about this?
You know, but so just like trying to like consciously make plans when we can and things like that have been for me big pieces of growth, even though they're little.
Totally.
You know, I like to say I'm a late bloomer in a lot of things, that I think I'm a late bloomer
Yes.
in that work-life balance thing, but we're working on it.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
resonate with that so hard. All right, let's do one fast Romy fact of Romy away from sports. It could be music you like, food you like, just something totally unique to you.
Ooh, I love hiking. That's like my thing. I love traveling. Who doesn't love traveling?
Yes.
But I my dream would just to be like go on like one big adventure trip every year if I could. Like it kind of like grungy adventure traveling, right? Like
Do you have a dream destination in mind?
everywhere. No,
Everywhere?
I don't know. You know,
All at once?
I'm that person though. Like when I say I love hiking and like adventuring, I also hate planning.
Yeah.
I am the worst planner in the world, so I am the person who's like, tell me where to be and I'll be there.
Yes.
But I need the friend to plan it for me.
The planning friend.
Yes.
I understand
I
that.
can't live without a planning friend because I'm a terrible planner.
I'll be there,
Okay.
but I need you
No,
to
right? Yeah.
help me.
That's my big thing.
I'll
I also have a
contribute.
cat, so I like her.
We talked about this off
Her
air.
name is Josie.
You are a mother
Yes.
to a sweet little kitty. I have to imagine it's hard to juggle, but also so nice to come home to a loving little animal.
Oh my gosh. Cats are the best pet if you have a busy job, like a
Yeah.
job like sports. Because you can leave them for a couple days. Like when I go on road trips for Broncos games, like we leave Saturday, come back Monday, and I just leave her food and water and she's fine.
Does she have like a little
She portion
water
controls
fountain?
herself. It's unbelievable. Yeah, and you
That's
get one of those like
amazing.
little, I don't know, filtered water
Yeah.
fountain things.
They love
but so
it.
like it's nice to have some companionship because my job's too busy. I can't have a dog. I don't have a yard.
I know.
So got a little kitty and
Yes.
they're great. I love cats.
I do too. I love animals in general, and I haven't gotten a pet because I can't commit. I know I can't
Yes.
get a dog, and I do love cats, but
Way low commitment level. Like I'm telling you, commitment, like maintenance, everything. This is like everybody says you get like a dog before you have kids, and I think you get like a cat before you have
cat before dog
a
before
dog
kids.
for sure.
Perfect.
But she's great.
Roby, this has been incredible. You've been so generous with your time, and you've taught me a lot. I've asked a lot of these questions to also give me some advice, and you've taught me a lot of things.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been such a treat, and I just want to say I'm so proud of you. I was saying to Jesse, I feel like all of a sudden I'm becoming the old lady in the Colorado sports market.
Roby, we're like the same age.
But I'm like, no. But I'm just so proud of all the work you do, and you've become such a strong voice in the hockey world, and it makes me so proud to see because I remember when you were kind of just like first starting out, and when we think of people who truly cover the Avs, you're one of those big main names, and I'm honored to be on your podcast, and I'm so proud of you, and just keep crushing it.
Thank you so much, Roby. All right, cut the camera. I'm going to cry. Hey!
Megan, how did you get from the rink to here so fast?
Hold on, I got to stop crying really quick. That was amazing.
Yeah, I love that last conversation that you guys talked about with you need to have some, like, it's hard to have some hobbies that are outside of sports when you make this is your entire life. This is what you do every day, all the time. So I think that's such a good conversation to have. It's like, there are other things that you do. Like,
yeah,
it's not just all based around hockey. Like, learning all that stuff about her is interesting.
It makes me feel less alone too, that there's someone who struggles a little bit with that work-life balance because the work is so fun. So you find yourself just ingrained in sports even when you're not clocked in, and it doesn't feel bad because you're having fun, but you kind of need to reconnect with the other hobbies. And so I do have these little things. I'm like, oh, I bet people don't know that I like Turkish soap operas, for example.
What?
It's this weird thing. Like, I don't watch a lot of TV, but I like telenovelas, and the Puerto Ricans love telenovelas, right? And they love Turkish soap operas because they follow a really similar model in the drama and the delivery, the plot devices. They're very similar. And so I'll watch Turkish soap operas in Spanish with Spanish subtitles.
Yeah.
And it's just this weird thing that people probably wouldn't know about me. I don't make a lot of time for it, but that's a Megan fact.
That's a Megan fact.
Now it's time for a Chloe fact.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. The only thing I really think that I do consistently outside of working is playing volleyball.
I like this one.
Yeah. I played all the time. I played for like the first 12 years. I played really competitively, and I wanted to play in college. But, you get through high school and you have some bad coaches and it just becomes unrealistic. So I stopped playing for a little while, and then now I just play in like a beer adult league.
Yeah.
So it's super fun. Just like one game every Tuesday or so. So it's a good way to just keep playing the sport that you like.
I love that. You still
There's
find
my
time.
fact.
That's a Chloe fact.
Yes.
Well, I just want to remind you guys, you never know when and where the hail will hit when the summer storms come.
true.
And the last thing you want is to be caught scrambling when it does. So make the call before the storm. Call Accurate America. They'll partner with you on navigating insurance and provide quick, professional, and knowledgeable service using the latest technology and 3D modeling. And their work is guaranteed as long as you own your home. Don't scramble at the last minute. Call Accurate America at 303-900-ROOF before the storm. And speaking of storms, we are digging in to the NHL officiating conversation. We are just diving right in. It's not an official Pucks and Prosecco investigates, but we got to take a look at the way that officiating has changed the complexion of the playoffs. And I'm going to take it outside of Dallas, Colorado, because obviously we're really close to this situation with the Dallas, Colorado series. But the Florida-Tampa series is an interesting case study in how officiating can dictate the trajectory of the series. And look,
yes, it's back.
Excellent use of the sound
Thank you,
effect.
Jesse. Thank you. Finally doing something good for our podcast. Thank you.
I'm like scared we're gonna have the intro just run in the middle of the shot. I'm sorry, I don't mean that. Florida currently leads the series 3-1. I had Florida coming out of this because I believe them to be a dominant team, but I would be mistaken not to point out the way that calls, non-calls have affected the way this series has unfolded. Starting with game 2, it was a play with Barkov and McDonough, and Hagel went to line up Barkov on the PK, and he was given a 5-minute major on the ice for interference, and he was not assessed a game misconduct, and then he was suspended for a game. So he wasn't present for game 3, but returned in game 4. In game 3, though, there's emotions that boil over from this moment. Jake Gensel moved the puck to set up Nikita Kucherov for an empty net goal, and Tkachuk lined up Gensel for a hit, and after the puck left his possession, so it was a little delayed in its timing. This was an interference major, but there was no supplemental discipline. So this precedent had been set with Hagel getting suspended for a game. The context of the Tkachuk hit was a little bit different too. It was a little bit clearer in its intent, and at least Gensel did have the puck at one point. It was a little bit clearer, right? But you go into game 4. Now you've got Hagel returning from suspension, and you've got Tampa feeling a little bit salty and sour about the difference that this play didn't have supplemental discipline and Hagel's did. And so Hagel goes for Ekblad, and it's a pretty dirty play. His forearm catches him up high, his head hits the ice on the way down, and Ekblad grabs at him. And Ekblad wasn't assessed a penalty on the play, but Hagel leaves the game injured. And Tampa Bay responded with 2 quick goals at even strength to pull ahead 2-1. But it directly impacted the outcome of the game with Ekblad, who did not receive even a minor penalty on the play, scoring on the tying goal in the 3rd period. And he did get supplemental discipline after the fact, but no call on the play, and him able to play throughout the rest of that game did change the overall outcome of it. Later in that period, you kind of see the way in which this game unravels. Nico Mikkola boarded Girgensons, and Girgensons lost his footing after the contact from Mikkola, and it kind of, Mikkola finished his check, and it left Girgensons in a vulnerable position when he was trying to get back up, and that warranted a major penalty, and the first game misconduct of the series. And so you could see the way that the officials had to sort of rein this back in. Florida wins that game 4-2, and now they're up 3-1 in the series. But you see that there's maybe a sense of inconsistency in a precedent that was set going back to game 2, and how a player like Ekblad not getting a call on the play and being available for the rest of the game in game 4 leads to a tying goal for Florida. And so I think not being as ingrained in that series as maybe the Florida-Tampa people, it gives shades of what we're talking about with Dallas, Colorado, how you don't want there to be any part of the conversation that shows that officiating is dictating the way that a series is unfolding.
Yeah.
Because I think on the side of Colorado, you go back a game and that fourth line is getting eaten up and beat up. You get Jury getting dropped by Marchment and Bichelle, I think it was. And you've got Parker Kelly getting tackled and OC getting cross-checked. And all of that happens without any sort of whistle. And so it makes some of the calls against feel a little bit weird because it felt like a different precedent was set, that there was just some level of hockey being played that they were just going to allow. And it obviously changes the course of game 5 for the Avs because they had brought it within 1, 3-2 Dallas, and they go on the penalty kill and Dallas capitalizes on the power play and it deflated the Avs. And you obviously want to see good teams endure that with resiliency, but it still remains true that it affected the Avs in a negative way and the game completely slipped from their grasp at that point.
Yeah, I think the worst part about it, yes, there are a lot of calls. They're either missed calls or you could say that they're soft calls, but it's just there's no clear standard to it. And that's what makes it so confusing because it's either like you need to either call everything or just let them play. And now everybody's kind of confused because certain things get called and others don't, even though they could be the exact same penalty. So it's hard when you're in the middle of a playoff game and then there's a lot of unpredictability, and that definitely changes how the players play a lot. And Gabe talked about this. He said that some of the calls feel like preseason calls, which is like a conversation I wanted to get into with you because I think that there can be a difference between the way referees call things in preseason, the way they call things in regular season, and the way they call things in the playoffs. So do you think that, depending on where they are in the season, that different things get called or there's softer calls?
Absolutely. And I think it's to set the standard for the year ahead. And especially in preseason games, the lineups are made up of a lot of American League players trying to prove things and earn roster spots. And so there is that added concern of things getting out of hand in the preseason. And so I think there's extra caution on behalf of refs, especially because, look, we're not playing for points at this point either. So it's preseason for the refs too.
Right.
So it's sort of this laboratory for them to tinker with what works, what they want to call into the regular season, and set a standard for the players too of what's going to be status quo going into the year ahead. And so I think that's what makes it interesting is I almost worry that Florida-Tampa is a bit of a cautionary tale to other officials and how they call games, that it's clear that emotions boiled over between both teams, directly stemming from events in the previous game that led to retaliatory actions. And I think that officials see that and want to never let the game get out of hand then by being really quick with the whistle. And I think to an extent that's true in the Dallas Colorado series, that there've been some things that have been called that you look at and you just feel like that's maybe a little bit soft. I'll even include an Avs example here in a second, but it then makes it weird when things like Hintz cross-checking Nathan MacKinnon in game 5 goes uncalled, right? I talked about Parker Kelly, Jack Jury, Logan O'Connor. Even the double minor where it was Rupe Hintz again, cross-checked Nathan MacKinnon going back game 1. MacKinnon had to campaign for the high stick call.
Yeah.
Sorry, I said cross check for the high stick call.
Right, even though he was bleeding.
And so that's what gets him the double minor. But it was not initially caught and called. McKinnon had to advocate for himself. And I've seen that criticized on the Dallas side of things. Like, he had to whine for his call. It was an egregious call that went nearly missed. So he not only had a case, he had a double minor case for it. And so it's clear that Roope Hintz has had McKinnon's number, understandably, that his cross-check to the hand broke Hintz's wrist. So there's bad blood between these teams. This notion that they need to have short-term memories is true to an extent, but they also don't have short-term memories when it comes to wrongs that have been committed against each other. And so I'll look at a Colorado thing for a second. Josh Manson is skating for the puck below the goal line, and he gets there first, and Dadonov is there trying to kind of contain him and engage him, and he gets his stick across Manson to try and contain him, and it's called for a trip, and Manson does go down. And I think you can look at, let me pull up some of the pictures here. Yes, let's see. Media assets. Sorry, this is not as smooth.
Or was it not this one?
No, it is. I just didn't know if there were two pictures for it or one, but either way. This is the best angle of it, but if you see it from the front angle, his stick actually doesn't make contact with his skates, and Dadonov pulls his stick away when he realizes that he is about to contact Manson's skates. The argument could be made that his stick gets Manson on the left thigh a little bit, and honestly, when he's on his edge like that, you're in a pretty vulnerable position that it doesn't take much pressure for you to be knocked off your skates. But this would be one that I'd give some benefit of the doubt to the Dallas side of it, that I actually don't know if Manson is really as tripped up as he let on here, but he gets the call.
Yeah.
And so the Avs go on the power play. It's later that Manson gets called for high sticking Jamie Benn. And this one, it almost feels so like this one intentionally, you see that Jamie Benn is crouching down with his eyes on Manson's blade to find it. It's like he locked onto his target. He had to even lower himself to ensure that his head is going to go into Manson's stick blade. And then, of course, he really sells it with the dramatics after. And the stills don't do it justice. This is the best one to watch with the full replay because it's just silly. But honestly, it feels retaliatory because Manson maybe sold that tripping call earlier in the game and Dadonov, and so Benn is seeing an opportunity to level the playing field. And I don't like that on either side of it, right? That you see that, well, if they're going to be kind of overselling some of these calls, then we need to play their game because then it becomes a back and forth of retaliation and trying to see where you can get calls. And I think that starts to take away from the hockey being played and the series at hand. And I think I have queued up in here the Hintz cross-check on McKinnon. This is just purely a non-call. That's pretty dangerous. I just don't like the looks of it. All right, I want to get into the Malinsky one because this was one that at first watch, I was 50-50 on, like, okay, I kind of see it, but I think that's a routine hockey play. And this is kind of lame.
Yeah, this was one that Jared Bednar talked about a lot. Like every time that somebody asked him a question about, just what are you feeling about the officiating this series? This is the one that he brings up.
I'm glad he does too, because my order might have gotten a little bit mixed up here, but we'll get the spirit of it in a second. So both players are going to play the puck. That's kind of the important detail here. So they're both going to play the puck. And as of right here, Sam Steele has the inside track to getting to that puck first, but Malinsky has a chance to take away the inner track. And so that's what Malinsky does. I don't think I have the two quite queued up, but Malinsky gains inside ice on Sam Steele. And it's not great to see from this angle, but you can kind of tell that Malinsky's shoulder is down, and the call here is elbowing. So we're looking to see this elbow come out and up at some point. Here, it still appears to be down, but there's obvious contact here, right? The whole point of this is Malinsky trying to take away his lane to the puck. And so here, just kind of another angle where you see that from behind, it doesn't appear that the angle of the elbow has come out quite yet. All right. Next thing you know, his elbow is up. But it's important to note that Sam Steele's stick has hooked under Malinsky's arm and has lifted his elbow out from his body. And he's reacting pretty dramatically to this non-contact now because it's Sam Steele who's actually initiating that contact in the first place. So
you can see
the
way his feet just happened to fall right out from under him.
I think the important thing to make note of here when you're looking at an elbowing call is Malinsky's elbow was inside his body until Sam Steele hooked his stick under his arm and lifted it onto himself. And there was going to be some contact on this play because of what the play is, no matter what. But it certainly wasn't an elbow, and it was very much self-inflicted on behalf of Sam Steele. This was a Sam on Sam crime, and the wrong Sam paid the price.
But this is a really good example of, you have these two teams that are playing really physical playoff hockey, and now we're taking something that may not normally be a call that's just kind of seen as a physical play, and we're turning it into a penalty.
It's really tough, right?
The lines are blurred.
You can't expect Malinsky to play that any differently. Then he'd be letting Sam Steele win that puck without any sort of contest. And that would be pretty unacceptable. So I think the other thing is there's been this, anytime Colorado fans weigh in on the officiating, people are like, well, you're not capitalizing on your power play, so what does it matter?
Right.
My issue isn't that I want the Avs to have more calls or more power plays. I just want, well, one, because they need to figure out the power play, but two, because it's inconsistent. That is such a routine hockey play from Malinsky. And then I look at Drury getting both players hook under his arms and drop him forward.
Yeah.
Kind of absurd to even see that in the sport of hockey.
Yeah.
With no call. And I'm like, okay, well, if that's the standard we set, because that happens in the first period. If that's the standard we're setting for how the hockey's going to be played tonight, I guess. And that's where I want to see it level out in the series. I don't want this to be a series that comes down to the question of, well, would it have been different if officiating was different? That's not fair to the talent that exists on both sides of it.
And that's what I keep just saying things that Bednar said, but he just said, like, next game we'll have different officiating. It's like, yes, that's true. And in a way that could, like, make the game a lot more even, game 6. But, like, that's not what you want to see out of your officiating. You don't want to have to hope that one day you'll have refs that are going to call everything or don't call anything. And then the next, you're going to have refs that actually call the game evenly. That's not what you want, because, like, this is playoffs. You have two teams that could possibly win a Stanley Cup this year. And yet, where they keep going back and forth, who's winning and who's losing, and there's such close games. And now it's coming down to the way that the game is being officiated. And maybe that's not exactly the case, because I did have written down, like, yeah, they did go 0 for 3 on the power play, and, like, Dallas on their power play, they only scored 1, but they lost by 4. So it really just, I don't know, when you're looking at this, you just can't really tell if the way that, like, the momentum swings in one direction or the other is just because of the way the game is played, or if it's because of the officiating.
Yeah, and I love this concept of leave no room for doubt. Obviously, I would like both teams to embrace that, but especially the Avs to play hockey in such a way that it leaves no room for doubt on the call.
Right.
That means then bringing their A game with attention to detail, because oftentimes when a penalty gets called, somebody's overcompensating for something. Maybe they're a couple steps behind in a race to a puck, and so they're outreaching their stick and they end up hooking a guy. It's stuff like that is born from not being ahead of the 8 ball, so to speak. And so that's where the Avs can do themselves favors. You use the word discipline, and that's certainly true, but there's a process to the discipline, and it's good process. It's good attention to detail that leads to disciplined play.
Yeah.
And so it puts you in a situation where you're in the driver's seat in the hockey game. And the Avs have done this in a lot of ways, especially 5v5, in a good process that has them outpossessing the Dallas Stars, outshooting the Dallas Stars. It's then a question of the quality of their chances and execution at that point. But that's all well and good. But they have to be very careful to the details of their D-zone coverage to make sure, and especially on the back check too. I think that's where they get a little hung up. And then leave the emotions behind. It's clear that Dallas would like to bait Colorado into all of this.
Yeah.
And kind of force Colorado to stoop to their level in that way. And Colorado has. And so this is where it's not a bad strategy on Dallas's side because they've gotten the result that they've wanted and being able to get a couple calls that break their way, a couple things that go unnoticed. And so the Avs they can't operate from that place of, well, maybe we'll get the benefit of the doubt. Leave no room for doubt. And I think it's going to be crucial for them going into Game 6 to play the right way and not let the emotions, because you look at the Tampa-Florida series as a clear example of why not to do that. Don't let the emotions of the previous games and things that have gone called or uncalled boil over. I'm especially looking at the fourth line with a little worry because they have been heavily targeted. And I think it's a testament to the way that they like to play that they're being targeted, that it's effective and it's a threat that Dallas sees this need to neutralize by being a bit aggressive, so to speak. And I want to see that line in particular stay above it all because the way that they play, it is so muck and grind hockey that they could get baited into doing that very thing against Dallas.
Yeah.
They could still be physical and heavy on the forecheck and coming up with pucks because of their physicality, but I want to see them stay above the fray in all of it too.
Yeah, and one thing I want to touch on too, when you're saying like you don't want to leave any room for doubt and it's about them being disciplined and leaving the emotion behind, that's a really hard thing to do. And the last game especially, not only, did it seem like they were frustrated with the officiating, but they started off the game in a really weird spot with Dallas scoring in the first 9 seconds and then that weird puck sitting on Blackwood's back and then eventually going in. That happening at the very beginning of the game, it seems like it sort of set the tone for the rest of it. So maybe the officiating kind of was an excuse after that of, they started getting more and more frustrated. But when you look at the whole game together, that at the beginning, I think really stopped them from doing anything right away.
I look at the Arturi Lehkonen goal in Game 1 where he kind of kicks it midair and how Dallas must have felt similarly, right? So there's a lesson for both teams to learn. When you have that weird goal, get past your goaltender, you really need to reset quickly. There's almost this element of suspend your disbelief for a second. Like, I get that what you just saw was kind of unbelievable. That was pretty weird, right? You need to suspend your disbelief and just carry on because hockey can be a weird sport sometimes.
The NHL is staged.
It is staged, right? And so I think there was this element of them being good at suspending their disbelief at the start. Like, okay, that was kind of weird. Moving on. Okay, that was kind of weird. Moving on. Right when the I think it's a Thomas Harley shot to the net hits Mackenzie. Oh my God, so sorry. Hits Mackenzie Blackwood in the chest and goes up and then down his back. Kind of weird, right? Suspends disbelief. But then the Malinsky call, I think they're like, we're kind of done suspending our disbelief. Like, that's pretty unbelievable. You saw Landeskog, Lindgren, even Malinsky get angry over this. Jared Bednar's yapping on the bench, and he keeps yapping about it to this day. The disbelief around the Malinsky call is where they lost their ability to move past it. And unfortunately, it's one of those control what you can control, and they couldn't control that. And I think that's where they lost their threshold for letting it go.
And that's why there were 4 game misconducts at the end of the game.
And that honestly, like, I look back at the parties involved and it's unsurprising on the Dallas side, and they're trying to get into it with a lot of the fourth line type guys as well as Lehkonen kind of in the mix, but there's Logan O'Connor in there, Jack Drury in there. And that's why I have a worry of how this could carry over and why there's a job to be done here of not getting mixed up in the low stuff, the low level stuff. Okay, they got to be above it.
And I'm honestly looking at this too because I'm thinking, we're talking about the fourth line. You have a lot of younger guys on that.
Yeah.
And then I keep and this is a mistake, but like it's Bischel, but I want to accidentally say a bad word saying his name. That's not my fault.
You
It's
can
the
make
way
that
the
into a
name
bird.
is. Yeah.
Lil, because his first name's Leanne. You can nickname him Lil B.
Yeah. Lil B.
Lil B.
But he's because I just looked up
He's a
how
big
old he
boy.
was because I'm just thinking like, those are the players that you see getting into it at the end of the game there. He was a big part of that. He's 20. And then you have guys like Parker Kelly, and Jack Drury, also really young guys. So to have younger guys that are, I think it's a lot harder for them to, suspend their disbeliefs and take that emotion out of it for a second when you're not a veteran like some of these older players where, like Nathan McKinnon gets cross-checked and there's a reaction to it, but it's nothing like getting a 5-minute game misconduct. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is interesting too. Like Sam Steele, Leon Bichelle are kind of involved in extracurriculars. Sam Steele, obviously the one who really oversold the Malinsky call earlier, and he was getting it from a lot of the Avs players on the ice who saw it for what it was, and it was pretty ridiculous. And he cross-checked Nathan McKinnon near the end of that game. In addition to, sorry, that was Leon Bichelle. And so I think you're right. Lil B. That was Lil B. I think you're right. Like the way that Logan O'Connor plays, that's not new. You see guys barking at OC between whistles, kind of because of the havoc he causes at the crease. Yeah. And you don't doubt that he's probably saying things too. Like the way that he plays hockey 100%. Can be very aggravating to his opponents. And so I think that whole line of Drury, Kelly, and OC is very aggravating. I think they had a really great game one and kind of set the tone for what that line would be in a way that Dallas needed to match. And so the way that they've matched it has been by trying to bait that line into getting out of order. Yeah. Because they do provide so much consistency to the Avs. And so that's where I'll key in on them. The whole team obviously needs to be as disciplined as possible and not let a couple of calls that they maybe don't agree with completely dismantle their game plan. Yeah. I think it's actually been a decent penalty kill. Dallas just has a great power play, and on the power play goal against in particular from game 5, you've got Kiviranta without a stick, and it's such a skilled play from Duchesne for the one-tap pass across the slot that makes it difficult with how quickly that unfolds to have done much else different. So I think they should trust in their discipline, but also trust in their PK. You got a shorthanded goal in the series from Logan O'Connor. Yeah. So not that that's something Dallas will allow too easily, but there's just an element of trust in themselves and staying above the fray that I really want to see from them.
Yeah, I do want to touch on one more thing. A lot of the stuff I saw when we're like going back to the Jamie Benn basically skating directly into Josh Manson's stick. A lot of the stuff that I saw online from Dallas fans to come back at this was that towards the end of the game, Landeskog was sort of circling the net, and then he punched Lindell in the face, and no penalty was called. So that's a lot of what I've been seeing online, where it's like, yeah, they called that, but they didn't call that penalty against Gabe, so technically it's fair. What do you think?
I think there's been that on either side, right? Like we just talked about the Rupe Hintz cross-check to Nathan McKinnon's neck that went uncalled. So I don't think it's been as tit for tat as I'd like to see. And this isn't where I'm advocating for more calls. It's just like, okay, you're going to let the Landeskog thing go, then you got to let the Malinsky thing go too. Like that's just a routine hockey play.
And it's like making it out right now. They're kind of making it out to be like, that was such a dirty hit by Gabe. Like, I can't believe he did that.
Sometimes it's just hockey, and you see it go both ways. Like, go back to the first period then where Drury got dropped by 2 Dallas players and Parker Kelly got football tackled. And OC has been eating cross checks all series. Like, that's hockey. That's what we signed up for. And I am not asking for any except for maybe the Drury one to be called.
Yeah.
Because that's hockey. Okay, I don't want anyone to get hurt. I want to be clear on that. But you either have to commit to letting the guys play or calling everything. Exactly. And that's going to be annoying and disruptive to the flow. But it's weird then that there have been things that have gone called. It's like, oh, come on, that's just hockey.
Yeah. Just take it right back to Jesse's point of they should have officials talk at the end of the games. Jesse.
After looking at the Malinsky one, I want to know a little bit more about what went into that one. Obviously, the Jamie Benn one walking into Manson's stick. Okay, that one feels a little obvious, and it feels like a makeup call for the Manson tripping. Honestly, from earlier, that maybe wasn't actually tripping, and so I'm trying to be as fair as possible here. But you know, it's also not my job to be fair when it comes to who we put in the burn book, because
So
I make
true.
the rules, and I don't have to play by anyone else's when it comes to the burn book. So it's time to add a new addition to our burn book. I think he's like officially a little video file up here.
Oh, he is?
Yes, he is.
Oh, I see him.
Oh my god, I didn't mean to click it right away.
Look at those graphics.
Wow. Did you guys see it? Did it go too quick?
Why does it go away? How do we get it to stay?
I don't know.
Chief Flopping Officer.
The CFO.
The CFO.
Of the Divas. Mason Marchment. He kind of did... Look, this was interference. But the way he... And look, it's Manson's stick to his chest. I want to be so clear, though, that it's below the neck. And so the way that his body flops into a full C shape going back game one, and he's reaching for his nose, as Jesse's pointed out, also looking for some kind of a high sticking call when the contact is clearly well below his shoulders.
Not even close, yeah.
It was interference, bottom line, not arguing that. But it's sort of set this tone for... You saw a precedent set there that Dallas was trying to add some theatrics to calls, and sometimes they were good calls that were warranted, but there was that added layer of drama to ensure that they get the call, and it's lost a little bit of respect from my side.
Yeah, he's been a big part of this series because he's such an aggravating player to play against, and you see that in here. You know, it's not like he's making that big of a difference on the score sheet, but you hear his name all the time because he's always being physical with another player. He's flopping on the ground. There's a lot of theatrics that go into this, and it's hard to watch sometimes. Just like, this is another player we talk about where it's like, if he was on your team, do you still like him as a player?
Do I?
Because that's a hard question to answer, because it's having a player like that on your team that is very dramatic like that would be hard to like a player like that on the Avs.
If it's like, I can understand, okay, there's a strategy for getting calls to go your way, blah, blah, blah. I just think that he pushes it too far, and it kind of hurts the integrity of the hockey being played. And also, this isn't meant to be a cruel dig at him. He started playing hockey later in life, so he learned to skate later in life. But as a result, his skating, I don't think, would be up to the Avs standard. I don't think he could play Avalanche hockey the way that they would need him to. I don't think his speed and pace would be able to keep up with them. And I don't think this chance that he could draw calls for them would win me over enough. I actually don't hate this player. It's just in this series, it's amplified how I just don't have a ton of respect for that style. And I don't think it would fit the Avs, so I wouldn't want him. I wouldn't want to cover that team with him on it. I don't doubt that he's a great guy, but you're right. He hasn't really impacted the series from a production standpoint the way that I think Dallas fans would like. You know, he gets his first goal in the series just the other night. So I don't know. There have been some calls that have gone his way. Like, that interference one was rightfully interference too, but then there's the
drama afterwards.
There's the drama.
Is what makes it aggravating.
Well, and people had issue with the elbowing call, Marchment to Makar, because people didn't feel he was actually elbowed. And they're correct. Mason Marchment didn't elbow Cale Makar. He took his stick shaft and jammed it in his head. And it was like, remember the Landy Kirby Doc incident where part of the issue is where Landy gets him is because where he is level, he's lower level to the ice. Makar was lower level on this play. But still, you don't need to be sticking your stick shaft into somebody's head. That's dangerous. And so, yeah, maybe elbowing wasn't the right call, but it was still a call. So
Yeah.
I'll give Dallas fans that, but also, come on now, he sees an opportunity too to take a jab at Cale Makar's head, and he takes it. So I don't like that.
Mhm. This is I kind of look at him the same way I look at Matt Rempe in a way where they're trying to make up for it. So whether it's illegal hits or embellishment, it's just trying to make up for the fact that maybe they're not skating as well as the rest of the team. Maybe they're not producing as well. So that's just kind of how I look at this situation. He's going in the burn book because of the embellishment,
Yeah.
Like, we're not putting him in there because, like, he's a bad dude or something. It's just take the theatrics out of it a little bit. Let's play hockey.
Yeah, I don't mind an annoying player.
Right.
But you lost a little bit of integrity with the drama of it all.
The drama, yeah. We're not even that dramatic.
No. I don't know.
Sometimes.
I don't know if I agree with that. So that's why, like, I wished I could respect it more, like with JV Ben walking into Manson's stick blade,
Like, it's respecting it in a way where it's like a strategy thing.
A round of applause, I guess.
Is that what you're saying, though?
Yeah, I can't, though, for what it's worth.
Right.
I just can't. And it does feel in response to their feelings that the Manson call from before, like, all right, did Manson maybe oversell the Donov tripping?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you that. I mean, he's a big boy and on his edges, so it's probably not hard to take him down. I'll give it to you, sure. But yeah, it's emerged as a really ugly conversation piece in this series, and I want to remove it from the conversation so that all we can assess is the hockey of it all. And I'd love for the Avs power play to get better too. That's kind of the other unspoken part in all of this is special teams has not been where the Avs have excelled in the series, and it's not because they've had a terrible PK. They just have had a mid power play, and so they need to get going a little bit there. I've seen him do it before, but I just need to see him stay above the fray going into game 6.
I agree.
On the brink of elimination. No big deal.
Nobody's paying attention to that.
Nobody's paying attention to that. I hope everyone's doing okay.
Yeah, if there's everybody's feeling a lot of stress going into the game tomorrow, vent in the comments right now.
Yeah, vent in the comments.
We'll go through and read all of them, I swear.
Yes, because we'll probably sign off for the day now, but feel free to leave comments venting all of your feelings after the fact, and we'll probably relate to and resonate with a lot of what you're going through right now. And we'll be here for you tomorrow with all the Game 6 coverage. Look, I think the Avs have one thing. Well, I shouldn't say one thing. They have many things going for them, but one thing that I have a confidence in, and that is their ability to respond to a bad game. Game 7 will be what a game 7 will be, but I have a lot of confidence in how the Avs issue a response game by game. There's a lot of frustration that, maybe that can carry over if they channel it into something productive going into game 6.
Yeah. If they respond in a way like they did in game 4, then I think we're in for a really fun game tomorrow.
They're going to lower Gabriel Landeskog from the rafters. It's the boost this team needs.
Even though he already made his return, they're going to do it because I guess they got so many complaints from a girl named Chloe. And they were like, holy shit, like, she's really upset about this. We have to lower him from the rafters. And that's how it happened, essentially.
And that's how it happened. So when you see him being lowered, just know that Chloe made this possible.
You're welcome.
And that's why activism matters, everybody. So
and
you
that's
get out
why
there.
Being dramatic matters.
That's why being dramatic matters. Look, everybody knows what the odds are for a team down 3-2 in a series. But if anyone is an example of what it means to defy the odds, it's Gabriel Landeskog.
Yes.
So I can't wait to see him lowered from the afters in Ball Arena tomorrow.
Me too.
Well, we'll take live video of it for you guys. So we'll see you tomorrow for game 6. Bye.